A lot of media outlets like The Hill are just now catching up to TikTok's silent depression trend.
We are in a silent depression. When you compare the Great Depression to today, this is going to absolutely blow your mind. In 1930, during the Great Depression, the average home in America was $3,900. The average car was $600, and the average monthly rent was $18 or $216 a year, and the average salary was $1,300 for the year. Fast forward to today, it is $436,000 for the average home, 48 grand for the average car, and the average rent is $2,000 a month or $24,000 a year, and we have a $56,000 income for the average American right now. So if you look back to the Great Depression, the house was only 3 times the average salary. Now it is 8 times the average salary. The car was 46% of the salary. The car today is 85% of the salary. And here's the craziest part. The rent was 16% of the average salary. It is now 42% of the average salary.
We are living in the silent depression, and I'm going to explain what I mean. During the Great Depression, 48% of people ages 25 to 29 lived at home with their parents. Nowadays, it's over 52%. If you take the worst year of the Great Depression in the 1930s, 1930 specifically, they made about $88,000 a year adjusted for inflation on average. One person, not a household, one person. Today, that's in between about $35,000 and $45,000 per head wherever you look across the country. New cars are unaffordable. New houses are unaffordable. To move to a new place and rent somewhere else is unaffordable. It's terrible what's going on right now. And to cap all of this off, I don't think anyone, for the most part, is really thinking about the fact that in 2020, 45% of the market just came crashing down in 1 month. There was a 45% drop in 1 month, the quickest fall that we've ever seen in United States history. And then it went back up and people have stopped thinking about it. Well, I'll tell you, I haven't. I think something big may be on the horizon because normal people in this country are fucking struggling. And at the end of the day, normal people are what this country's backbone is built out of. If you crush the back, the country's back will be broken and the rest of the body will be functionally useless.
That made me stop in my tracks.
We are living in the silent depression.
This guy believes we are not just living in worse than the Great Depression, we're living in the silent depression. The average annual income in 1930 for an American individual was a little over $4,800. Sounds like nothing, but if you adjust that for inflation, a little over $4,800 a year in 1930 is equivalent to almost $85,000 annually for the average salary for one person. Right now, the average annual salary is $56,000 a year. We currently are making less than the height of the Great Depression. In 1930, gas was on average 10 cents a gallon. That would be about $1.73. In case you haven't filled up your car lately, average cost of a gallon of gas is $3.55. To buy a new car in 1930 would have been about $860, worth about 15 grand. The average cost of a new car today is $48,000. And of course, the most coveted aspect of the American dream, being able to buy a house in 1930 cost about $3,900, less than $70,000. I spend way too much time on Zillow, so maybe this isn't surprising to me, but the average price of a home in America today is $416,000. How could we be living through worse cost of living and wages than 1930? And no politician, no media outlet, no one is talking about it.
That's Bidenomics. It's about growing an economy by strengthening the middle class.
A lot of media outlets like The Hill are just now catching up to TikTok's silent depression trend. In case you don't know what that is, let me show you some clips.
We are in a silent depression. When you compare the Great Depression to today, this is going to absolutely blow your mind.
If you take the worst year of the Great Depression in the 1930s, 1930 specifically, they made about $88,000 a year adjusted for inflation on average. One person.
How could we be living through worse cost of living and wages than 1930? And no politician, no media outlet, no one is talking about it.
Well, she got her wish. The media is talking about it now. But the reason they weren't talking about it before is because it wasn't true. I'm happy to say that we were a bit ahead of the other outlets. We published my article on the topic back in August. But let's go over my article and discuss why these claims are wrong and why we're not worse off in the Great Depression. You saw the clip of the second guy saying that people in 1930 were making the equivalent of $88,000 a year in today's dollars. If you look up average US income in 1930, you see this claim appear, but what they're doing here is they're quoting another TikTok video on Yahoo Finance. Before this was a TikTok trend, this IRS article used to be the top search result. and it said the average net income for 1930 was $4,887. But as I pointed out in my article, this IRS report is looking at the income of taxable returns, not total income. I found this little book from a market researcher published in 1930. He notes that people frequently and erroneously use these income tax numbers to determine average income. But he points out this doesn't make any sense because you're looking at 4 million people who are making the returns compared to a total of 30 million families in the US at the time. And the people making the returns tended to be higher income. So this is not an accurate representation of the average income. As I point out in my article, when we look at actual good sources that are looking at the actual average income, it's about $1,045 a year. This would amount to about $24,500 today. That is not even close to $88,000 a year. So the entire basis for this claim about a silent depression or us being worse off than the Great Depression is completely false. I also brought up some other important points. You had a 25% unemployment rate in 1933. That's significantly higher than today. I quote the economist Murray Rothbard, average weekly earnings fell by over 40% during the Depression, and real weekly earnings fell by over 30%. Today, we're not seeing anything even close to that. I pointed out that homelessness was widespread. We don't have any statistics of what the homeless population was back then, but all of the estimates put it way above the current population. I also compared the emotional and psychological toll. Suicide rates in 1928 and 1932 were higher than in 2021. Now, all of this is not to say that everything is perfectly fine today. I'm just pointing out it's not worse than it was in 1930 or throughout the Great Depression. I can acknowledge that wages are not keeping up with inflation today without saying that Americans are worse off than some ghetto in a third world country. You don't have to make absurd comparisons to make that point, especially when the comparisons are completely inaccurate. You can acknowledge the actual struggles that people are going through today and the things that are getting worse and the things that we need to fix without saying that things are worse than the Great Depression.
All right, show of hands. Who has Christmas all figured out this year? With the way that prices are, like, how can you choose between a Christmas present for your kid or paying your bills? Like, tell me what you're doing.
By now, you've probably come to realize that your dollar is not going as far as it used to, even maybe 3 years ago. That's because we have printed 70% of the M1 money supply ever created in the history of the United States. In fact, we are in now what's being recognized as a silent depression. This means that the delta in between your income and the cost of core items is greater than it was during the Great Depression.
Is over. We're currently in a silent depression, deeper than the 1930s, and it's only going to get much worse in 2024 and 2025. Just look at these numbers. In the early 1930s, the average income was a mere $400. Today it's $57,000. But back then, you could get a new car for $600 and a cozy home just $6,000. Adjusting for inflation, these should cost $11,000 and $110,000 today. But what do we see? A basic new car is almost $49,000, and homes are far beyond reach for many. Besides, college fees have surged 300% since 1988, but degrees aren't as valuable. Families once thrived on modest incomes. Now they're burdened with debt and fading dreams of homeownership. The family unit, our wealth builder, is crumbling. Rising costs, a shaky job market, and a debt crisis threaten the middle class. The American dream's erosion is a reality, not just words.
We have been priced out of buying homes. We have been priced out of having kids. Our kids have been priced out of adulthood because most will never be able to leave the financial umbrella of their parents. We've been priced out of certain jobs. I literally can't work here or I'm losing money. We've been priced out of transportation, whether it's a luxury item or just the maintenance of keeping transportation. We've been priced out of education, how much you spend on a degree versus what you get back from it, not worth it. We have been priced out of our neighborhoods, and now we're being priced out of the holiday season. People literally stood in line for hours to have Thanksgiving dinner at Golden Corral because it was cheaper than buying food and cooking for your family. All the reasons on why you were a productive, tax-paying, law-abiding citizen, we've been priced out of. So if there is no reward for being a good person or doing the right thing, there are going to be more people that are not going to try. We think that the youth is giving up now and they're not thriving. If we continue on this path, they're not going to give a damn. So if you're looking at all these snatch and grabs and thinking, oh, grab my pearls, just wait until you've seen the results of removing books from schools. You think we're being priced out of Black Friday, but we're actually being priced out of civility, because those sales, those new trinkets, those new items, those wants, those upgrades were the things that people thrived for and held on to on why they got up and went to work and did the things that they did. And if all of it's being taken away, you are now pricing us out of sanity and civility. We are living in a society that is creating savages, because there's no reason to do right, and the only way I can get anything is if I take it. You're either going to eat or be eaten. And it's starting with this holiday season in 2023. You've priced people out of holiday joy. This is not going to end well. Give me a break. 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 Please, oh God, give me a break.